Let's see how our audio sounds. Give that a quick refresh. Oops. Can go back to this one if it'll work for us. There we go. This says offline, which is interesting. There we go. It's always something on the technical side. Let's just make sure the audio is working. Something on... All right, that sounds good. Andrew Ricker's here. Hey, Andrew. I'm doing great today. It was very hot out here in Rhode Island. Oh, that might be in my way later. But still managed to get to the range. Had some good meetings at work. Got to spend a little bit of time with my wife. Gotta make sure this is nice and smooth. Yeah, pretty ideal day in the Jongyang golf world. Nice. We did a putting combine at the practice facility today on the stream. That was fun. In addition to hitting a bunch of golf balls for about an hour. Did all of that today. What is your day job? Good question, Amen Corner. I work in consulting for nonprofits. So as you might imagine, it's very project-based. So depending on how many projects I'm working on, I have, more or less time to play golf and make content, do live streams and record. But with that said, guys, I would always tell you that, there's often a way, often, at the end or the start of the day where you can find time for yourself, right? I mean, oftentimes, I'm generalizing to be clear, but, there are fewer constraints on our time, call it, from 4 to 7 a.m. or 9 to 12 in the evening. So I've used that strategy, in the past to find time for things that I want to do, whether that's exercising, going to the gym, or, playing or practicing golf. Oh, I'm just going to move this kettlebell because it's in the way over there. Did a good kettlebell complex for the last few minutes before I turned the camera on and started doing this indoor putting. A little inside on the takeaway. It's good feedback to have. So that was a long-winded answer to your question, Amen Corner, but hopefully gave you some context. it's a good reminder, right, that something like golf or exercise can be a, especially, you know, if you're like me who struggled with somebody who has had problems with addiction before. This is my alcohol-free beer, guys. 4.5 years, no alcohol for me. Golf can be a really good way, or not just golf, you know, exercising, a hobby, right? Something to sink your teeth into if you have that personality. It can be a really good tool to, you know, give your mind something to focus on. Did some really good speed drills as well. We did the decade speed drill with the ladder. While we're out practicing today. Nice. Really cool facility. It was my first time going over there to practice on the other side of town. Still only about a 15-minute drive, which is nice. So far, so good with the new Lab putter. Nice. Love to see that, guys. I think that's 20 in a row. I don't know, what do you guys think? Should we keep a streak going, see how many we can make in a row? This is what I was doing before. Some cleans, rows, press, squat. Gotta get all the main food groups in there with your kettlebell workout. All right, so that was 20 in a row. We'll start keeping track there on our extremely official scoreboard tracker. Doesn't get any more official than this, guys. So we're at 20. Just set that there. Hopefully you can still see it. Close. Very close. How's that? Oh, nearly. I think that'll work. Try to spend most of my putting time, my practice time when I have access to a putting green on longer putts or doing combines, because I have this great setup in here. I can practice, my stroke and short putts really easily in here with the well stroke setup, and I can put the Pels tutor down. Maybe once we end this streak, we'll do some of that work just to make sure everything's dialed in. I am going on vacation soon, so there will likely be a decrease in the live streams, but that's okay, guys. We'll, hopefully have some cool stuff loaded up and ready to go for you while I'm away. Nice. JM said, Oz or DF3? DF3, great question, good eye. Or as my buddies call it, the soup ladle. But then they watch me make a bunch of 8-footers. They're like, man, maybe I should get a soup ladle. Once you get used to controlling the speed with it and how it wants to swing. Graham says, we talk in a lab, convince me not to buy a Link. Well, I'm not going to be the guy to convince you not to, because that's not what I'm here for. As long as you're making good financial decisions, have at it. All right, guys, our extremely official tracker here. 30 in a row now. Oh, important to keep the back nice and loose too, especially doing a bunch of putting. To be honest with you, Graham, I've had a phenomenal experience putting this in the bag. Just wants to start the ball in line, especially on short putts. I feel very confident that it's going to just start where I want it to. The Link is certainly an attractive putter. I can't say I've spent a whole bunch of time rolling balls with it. I think I tried it a couple times at a store or a display that had them. But if you like that blade shape and you're looking for the lie angle balance advantage, then it's got to be a good option. Chris says, how important is short game? It's so important. It's so important. It's like, you know, chicken soup when your game is sick, right? If you're not hitting it great, you're not hitting a bunch of greens, giving yourself birdie putts, well, how do you keep your round together? By getting up and down, you know, holing putts, right? If you want to shoot low rounds, you're going to have to make some par putts in the, 5 to 10 foot range most times. And those are the putts that often dictate, whether you shoot 74 or 68 day to day. So it's super important, especially once you get to a certain level where, you're going to hit a bunch of greens. Well, then it becomes about giving yourself birdie opportunities, right? Can you score from 40 to 120 yards? It's not to suggest that every single time you have a wedge in your hand, you're going to hit it super close, but you want to take advantage of some of those situations when you do have them. And which is why you see a lot of top, touring guys when they're practicing, they're doing combines, they're doing games like on TrackMan, hitting their wedge numbers to certain targets, right? Back right pins, front left pins, tucking them, in these tough spots. And then saying, okay, what's the, how can I train myself to get a good strokes gained outcome, right? We're talking about incremental strokes gained. It's a quarter of a stroke here, a tenth of a stroke here, hitting it to 14 feet instead of 22 feet, or missing it in the right spot, right? Just pulling it to the center of the green instead of missing it short-sighted in a bunker or the rough. And when you stack up a whole bunch of, quarter strokes over 18 holes, that's how you put together a good round. So really important to have a good short game. And if you include putting in there, for sure, it's, 40% of your strokes in a given day. But guys, still important to remember that our objectives in putting, make as many from 3 to 10 feet as you can, and then 2-putt everything else as often as you can. Don't go out trying to hole 25 footers and then 3-putt all the time, because that's an easy way to have your scores really get out of hand. And ask me how I know, right? When the quality of your ball striking far exceeds the, your aptitude on the greens, it can be really frustrating. That's been most of my golfing life. But I think we're doing the right things. We're, trying new avenues to improve. I heard a quote earlier as I was scrolling the internet, as many of us do. And the basic point of it was that long-term success is really dictated by the ability to, look past day-to-day outcomes and just commit to a process and understand that, you're going to, still see the benefits of the work you do today, next week, next month, next year. And that people who can see, like, okay, I'm putting time in today for something that I may not experience the fruits of for, months or years. That's a good indicator, of how, or a common thread among people who have long-term success. And it's important to remember that in our day-to-day, right? A lot of times, I keep these kettlebells out so that I see them and will be, reminded to use them. And I'll think, oh man, I'll only have 15 minutes before my next meeting, or there's something else I wanted to do. And I'll say, well, I could do 15 minutes of exercise, and that's better than zero. And if you have that attitude about growth, whether it's in golf or, your life, it's a really good way to try to get where you want to go. We have superstars on the stream. Hi. Kisses from dogs. Kisses from dogs. Hi. Hi. I know the people love the doggos. Yeah. Yeah, look at you. Look at you. All right. Going back to hang out with Mom. What? Oh, kiss it. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. Oh, the best. They really are the best. 7284 people in the stream now. Thank you guys for hanging out. Really appreciate you being here. Cannot say thank you enough, guys, for all the support on the channel recently. I just saw we have like 600 new subscribers in the last month. Just hit 3,100 subscribers overall. Hi. Hi. That's a good distraction, actually. I can, if you can make a 5-footer when a dog's licking you. What? Probably going to be unlikely to be replicated on the golf course. Like if your buddy starts licking your leg to help you miss or try to get you to miss a short putt. I don't know if I play golf with that guy very often, but it's an endearing quality in a dog, that's for sure. That's our baby Lil. Had her since she was 12 weeks, or 10 weeks maybe. Since she was a tiny little thing. They told us, yeah, she'll probably be like a 35-pound dog. Remember, she was probably, 14, 15 months. Pretty like getting to being done growing as a dog. And they're like, yeah, she's probably done growing. She won't get much bigger. She was, I think, like 36 pounds during that visit. And then she finished growing at about 70 pounds. So, they only missed it by about 100%. But that's okay. We still love her dearly. She was just a late grower. She said, I haven't reached my final form yet, guys. I don't really care what this vet says. She's just some lady with a white coat. There we go. 40 in a row, guys. Oh, 145 people in the stream. Say what's up in the stream, guys. Shout out to you guys hanging out. That's 40 in a row. We're going to keep it going. See how many we can make. The record on the channel is 223, which takes quite a while to get to. Let me catch up here. S says, dang, a door that'll never be opened behind that shelf. That's exactly right. This is a door to another room. And it doesn't need to be a door. So we're treating it as if it's not a door. And maybe someday it won't be. Because you know what? It's my house. Because we bought it. We can do whatever we want. It's exciting. It's a lot of work being a homeowner for the first time. But we've really enjoyed the process. It's fun to work on something collaboratively with your partner, especially one who's so, engaged and has a good eye for these things. We have wonderful paint colors in the house. I would have never picked something so, cohesive, but it's great to have a partner in your corner. Nipsaw says Justin Rose. Yeah, he got it done yesterday, didn't he? That was really good. Give yourselves a pat on the back for 200 viewers in the stream, guys. showing the support. I really appreciate it. Drop a like if you're enjoying hanging out. Or if you're feeling really wet and wild, hit that subscribe button. Get notified when we do live streams, when new videos come out. We also just launched, guys, a memberships. That was something that YouTube was pushing to get out there. So if you want some cool, behind the scenes videos or, members only live streams potentially, go check that out on the channel. That's an easy way to help show support and say, hey, I like hanging out in these live streams when John goes live. And show him some support. But mostly, guys, I'm just blown away by how much support there's been. I'm so grateful. And I try really hard not to take it for granted, right? I still remember, just getting started and that, apprehension of like, well, how's this going to go? Are people going to like me? Or, what's the feedback going to be? And, you learn over time that just being yourself and putting yourself out there authentically is what matters. And I'm trying to do that each and every time we get on here, when we're making videos. And I'm just excited to, bring you guys along for this journey. Wherever it leads, we're going to find out together. Where can I get a practice golf kit? That looks awesome. I don't know about a kit necessarily, but I can tell you what the component pieces are. What I'm standing on is just a very basic artificial turf carpet piece from, your local big box store like a Lowe's. This is a ball return, with the little elevation here, just from online. You can find these very easily. The best part of the whole setup, though, is this guy, the Pels Tutor, which goes with the Wellstroke mat. I'm not using the Pels Tutor at the moment, as we're just seeing how many in a row we can make, but this setup here has fundamentally changed my putting. Just the confidence to know that if you can do this successfully over, hundreds of reps, that you're going to be able to consistently start your golf ball on your intended line, right? So I know if I read a putt and it's, from 5-6 feet, and I say, hey, if I can hit it at that left edge of the hole, and it rolls, it doesn't hit anything, and it just, that's my read, and if I hit it there, it should go in, that I can just aim there and have a really high degree of confidence that most of the time that ball is going to come out rolling right at that left edge that I've aimed it at, right? And that's kind of a superpower in golf, to just have that confidence, to not worry about, can I execute the shot? I just have to aim myself, and if I do that, the putt should go in. It also makes it much easier to accept the result, right? Because I know I've put the work in. I know that I have a high degree of confidence. I believe that I can start the putt where I want to. So if it doesn't go in, well, putts don't go in sometimes, right? And it's much easier to just kind of accept it and move on. Right, so this creates a gate. Say I had really, pulled the putt, right? I would hit this left ball bearing, and I get that instant feedback of did I, successfully start the ball on my intended line. And what I mentioned before that goes in there, or underneath, these are a combined training aid, if you will. This Wellstroke putting mat, guys, awesome, awesome tool. You can find these online, just search for Wellstroke. And this is the low arc version. And what it's giving me also is, in my peripheral vision, and I can practice, like dry firing almost, right? Tracing the white line on my putter along that arc, right? And if I can do that, then I know the putter's gonna come back to the ball square, and the ball should roll nicely, right? So I have a 2-part feedback system. I have the stroke feedback, right? Did I make a good stroke and keep that putter where it needs to go. I also have these indoor tees. These are just like paperweights that create basically another gate for the stroke. So if I get it going too far to the outside or inside, it'll tell me, right? And when you put that all together, if you can manage the drill successfully, like I said, you should really have a lot of confidence that that ball is going to start where you want it to. So that's my spiel on the setup. Oh, and as you can see, they are, metal ball bearings. They will crash if you drop them. They're crashing out. I'll have to find the other one later. How many have we made now? 52 in a row, guys. Drop some love. Hit that like button for 52 putts in a row. Let's go. DF3 back in the bag. Yes. Hi from Scotland. What's up, Googs? Welcome. Carter Does Sports said hi. What's up, Carter? Welcome to the stream, guys. Wow, we're consistently in the, close to 200 viewers. If this is your first time on the channel, you're enjoying hanging out, hit that subscribe button for me. We're going to keep chugging along on this journey to, keep trying to play better golf. Continue talking about things that are important to me, right? This idea of using golf as a container. It also really lends itself, to easy metaphors, right? Golf is a lot like life. And there are a lot of lessons that we can apply, to golf and to life. The idea of that you're going to get good breaks and bad breaks, and the best thing you can do is take it in stride. Try to give yourself different tools for different difficult situations, right? At different moments in time, you might need different tools, right? Sometimes it's smart to chip it back to the fairway and, hit it on the green, trying to, make a bogey. Sometimes it's the last hole of a tournament, and you're like, I got to make a birdie. I also need to be able to hit a high fade over that tree in front of me, right? Those are just different tools for the same situation. But, trying to give yourself as many tools as possible is a really good idea. I used to have one tool, and that was alcohol. Because as a product, it is very effective at, what it purports to do, right? If you don't want to feel the feelings that you're feeling, well, it will work just great for that. The problem is, it's a very, very bad tool. And has lots of, negative side effects for you and the people around you. Right? So for me, sobriety has been a great tool to allow me to better handle situations, difficult moments, right? It doesn't mean they're not difficult. It just means that I'm better equipped as a person to handle them. And that's why I talk about golf being a container, right? I want to talk about these experiences I have, whether it's losing a bunch of weight or getting off of, quitting smoking or nicotine, quitting alcohol. A lot of these experiences that I've been fortunate to have, and, to be able to share those or connect with people over those shared experiences to try and destigmatize them, right? Because I think, I would have had an easier time had it not been so difficult, right, as a man in the society that we live in, to do things like go to therapy, right? If I had seen people who looked like me, who talked like me, who I thought were cool, talk about that stuff, I might have thought it was okay to do much sooner in my life. And knowing what I know now, right, I could have saved myself a whole lot of trouble by just not being so afraid to take that step. And now having done it, and, now for a second time, I just recently started going again. Just understanding what a wonderful tool it is and how I'm better equipped to manage myself and my emotions and understanding where they come from, and that I don't, need things like alcohol to manage those issues anymore. So that's what it's all about. And if that resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. We're going to keep doing it, right? This stuff's important. I'll never tell you it's easy, right? You're never going to hear me say, like, yeah, that seems like an easy goal to accomplish. If you have lofty goals, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I just want you to hear that it's possible, right? Because there's a version of me that used to exist that would have never thought this version could exist, right? So, if you believe in yourself and you take small steps, make progress on a goal over a long enough period of time, and you're consistent and committed, then I have no doubt that you can get there. Logan said hi. Hey, Logan, what's up? Thanks for checking out the stream. We're just yapping, hitting some putts, enjoying a lovely Stella alcohol-free beer, which again is just another tool that I use in my sobriety journey, right? I still like, hanging out at the end of the day or having a beer, watching sports with my friends, and I can still do that. I just don't drink alcohol. And I was talking about this recently. I was invited to speak at, just like a private group of guys who, talk about sobriety and their experiences. And, so I spoke for maybe 15 or 20 minutes at that. And I talked a lot about this idea of, for me, what was helpful in dealing, with my alcohol issues was like a fundamental change in my identity, right? It's not like, oh, I'm taking a break from drinking, or, I'll see how I feel in a couple of months. I became a person who doesn't drink, right? That is my identity. So when I'm offered alcohol, or you're in situations where people are drinking, and it's obviously strangers aren't going to know that you don't drink, right? So you're still in our society, you are frequently presented with the opportunity to drink alcohol. And I just tell people I don't drink. Not like, not tonight or not right now. No, I don't drink. It's almost like I'm allergic to it. 70 putts in a row, guys. Drop some likes for 70 in a row. Managed to do that while I'm still out here blabbering, so I appreciate all you guys hanging out and listening to me. Braxton, do you have any advice for beginner golfers? I do. Hey, Robert said lab golf putter. Exactly right. Good eye. Hey, Squirrel Sniper's here. What's up? Advice for beginner golfers. Number one, have fun with it, right? Golf is an endlessly frustrating, difficult, annoying game. It can also be, beautiful and magical and create, incredible moments. So, if you're having a bad day, or it's, your swing's not where you want it to be, just try to find something to be grateful for. For me, that's often, as I try to stay present, this idea of like enjoying the scenery around me, right? Feeling the breeze in the air, or, enjoying seeing the trees and the nature of the golf course. So that's number one, have fun with it. As far as like an actual, advice, tip, something I would tell you to do, when you're practicing, right, when you're going to the driving range, you really need to work on impact, right? The thing that separates golfers as they improve in their skill level is how consistently they can strike the ball. And especially with your irons, right? We're talking about how you interact with the ball and the ground, because you are going to interact with the ground when you play golf. You hit the ball and then make a divot, right? Ideally. So at a slow speed, when you're a beginner, you can honestly do, 50, 60, 70% of your practice at the driving range, doing this drill and just practicing. Make a little swing, like waist to waist, right? Your hands come to your waist. If you had an 8-iron or a 9-iron, you might be trying to hit it 30 yards in the air, 40 yards in the air. You're not making a big full swing, right? Don't worry about swinging it back here. But just learn how to, at a slow speed, consistently strike the center of this club face as frequently as you can, right? Learn some good fundamentals with your grip and your setup, but then really slow it down, honestly. Make these little half swings, and you're just going to practice chipping the ball, but finding the center of that club face, practicing hitting the ball first and then the turf, right? And that would be my best, practical tip if you're a beginner golfer, right? Really spend a lot of time, drilling that impact position. Chungus, as an alcoholic, I disagree. I don't get offered enough drinks. That is a funny comment. When I was drinking, I love to disagree too. Squirrel Sniper, 27 years dry. It's a whole new world. Wow, that's amazing. 27 years. Proud of you, my dude. And you know what? They got there the same way that we all will, one day at a time. It's another, important message that I want people to hear, right? The journey of a million miles begins with a single step. You just have to start. The same way I didn't know how to, make content or, have a compelling live stream or do any of this stuff, right? I just started. I just said, let's go figure it out. This is something that's interesting to me. You're telling me that there might be a way to do something that you absolutely love, playing golf, talking about things that are important to you, and you might be able to meet cool people or have different experiences. You might be able to make some money out of it. I was like, let's go do that. That seems fun. And I finally had kind of the life circumstances that allowed me to do that and the flexibility. But the hardest part is still starting. Right? I remember, 0 subscribers, hit post on that first video. You're like, let's hope, something happens here. But again, that's where, like we were talking earlier, just that being committed to the process and the consistency of it. I still have goals written down on my phone. My goal was post 1,000 videos in the first year, and my hope was that I could get to 1,000 subscribers. So one of those we've already done. The other one we're still working on. But again, that was, I was trying to have those goals be more process oriented, right? Like if I post every day or if I'm consistent in doing this, then I believe that, some amount of growth or, people will think this is interesting will come with that, right? But you don't know. You just got to commit to the process and see. Well done. Only a bit of a joke. Fucking respect, bro. Thanks, Chungus. I appreciate that. I don't know anything about golf. Good. God bless. Thanks, Chungus. Drop a subscribe if you want. I gave myself the choice and took it. I love that. Hey, Free Samples is here. What's up, Free Samples? This is for 75 putts in a row, guys. Drop some likes for 75 in a row. Boom. Dead center. What do you guys think? Are we going to break the record? The record's 223, guys. I should probably write that here. PR, what we're chasing, PR 223. There's the dragon. Whoa. Logan says, I'm very happy for you, John. Keep it up. Thanks, Logan. I appreciate that. All right. Coming up on 80 in a row now. Let's see the bag. Oh, you want to see what's in the bag? Or you're talking about this guy? Or this guy? Tell me more about which bag you want to see. Is that a 7 or 8 foot putt? No, it's only right here at 5 feet, actually. Goes 2, 3, 4, 5. Right where we've got it. I do think about 8 feet would be the ideal distance to practice at, but as you guys can see, 8 feet from there is in my wife's office, so unless we're going to move this wall so that I can hit, you know, 3 feet longer putts, I think it's going to be 5 feet. All right, 80 in a row, guys. Let's keep it going. $80 in a row. Let's keep this going. Chihoito is here. What's up, Chiho? Maxon Hubbard's here. What's up? Mason says, I'm really good at putts. Awesome. Keep it up. If you're a good putter, just, you know, focus on whatever works for you and keep doing it. Because if you can get to where you feel like you're a good putter, that can be a really, really big advantage. Okay, love to see that. Let's talk about what's coming soon. I'm gonna go film some more golf. Hopefully tomorrow morning. Maybe even play 18 holes. Which could be fun. We'll see what kind of shenanigans we might get into on the golf course. Whew, important to stay hydrated here, guys. Anthony wants to know, what kind of clubs do you play? Great question, Anthony. So I've got TaylorMade driver, 5-wood, 7-wood hybrid. I've got Tacoma irons. These are the 301 CBs. These are really attractive. Behind the ball. Feel great. I've got KBS C-taper shafts in these. 125 grams. The S Plus Flex, so in that kind of 6.0 profile, you know, between stiff and X. And then Vokey wedges, of course. These are SM8s, but I just love these wedges and haven't seen a need to change them yet. So, although we are coming up on, you know, next season probably they'll be at their round limit. I think they say, you know, about 50, 60 rounds. 70 rounds for wedges, depending on, you know, how much ancillary practice you do, how often you're hitting off of mats versus grass, that kind of stuff. I have a question. How do I get my hits straight? So you want to hit the ball straight, you got to get the club face square at impact, right? So generally speaking, if your ball is slicing or going to the right, you want to close that club face, right? Get it pointed more to the left. And vice versa, right? If you're hooking it, that ball is turning right to left. You need to get that face more open, right? So the drill, or what I would have you practice, right? Let's say you've identified most of my shots are missing to the right. When I don't hit it solidly, right, they're slicing. Well, practice hitting some over into the left rough, right? You know, you're aimed straight, like you're going to hit it right down the center of the fairway. And then, boom, force yourself to get it over there to the left, right? Whatever you have to do to see that ball turning, you know, getting that club face closed. That would be my quick advice. Without having seen you swing. Anthony says, very nice set. Thanks, Anthony. Sweet spot consistently, 90 degrees to the ball. And then Squirrel Sniper said hi to Anthony. I love it, guys. Love the chat camaraderie. Everybody's just, you know, hanging out, trying to get a break from work or school, whatever's keeping you busy. Listen to me blabber and share my thoughts, talk about some life experience stuff. Love that. One thing I do need to continue working on is my posture with my putting. Right, I tend to get a little this way and not, you know, quite so much. Right, doesn't that just look better instead of this? My dad said the Happy Gilmore swing is hard, but I tried it twice and I hit it both times. Wow. I think it definitely would be hard to play golf with that swing. You know what I could do, guys? If I'm out playing tomorrow morning by myself, maybe I'll do something crazy like film a Happy Gilmore video where I hit every shot, even the putts, right? How would I even hit a putt like a Happy Gilmore, right? I'd have to kind of step into it and then hit it like that. That's going to count, by the way. That's 90 in a row. Happy Gilmore style on the last one. Anthony said, also nice ink. Thanks, Anthony. It's a dangerous habit, as some of you may know. Well, maybe this will resonate with some of you guys. At one point in my life, I thought that I was going to have one tattoo. I got one, and I was like, yeah, it's probably the only one I'm ever going to have. The moral of the story is, well, tattoos are addicting and fun to collect. But more than that, you're going to be wrong about things in your life. And I think it's important to be able to say, I was totally wrong about that. You know, I thought something, or I had an opinion, and then I got new information, or something changed, and I changed my mind, right? I was wrong before. I think that is a skill that not many of us have developed to an adequate extent. That's a rim rider if I've ever seen. Yes, that one did just barely sneak in that top edge, didn't it? All right. Drop a like on the stream if you guys are enjoying hanging out. Boom. Let's go. Maybe hold off the Gilmore putts till after 224. Okay. That's 95 in a row, guys. $96. The only bad news is I don't make the rules, but if you're still here when we make 100, then I think you just have to stay and support until the streak ends. Right? Imagine being like, oh, I was the one that caused it to miss. You don't want to be trying to sleep with that on your conscience. Nice. This is for 99. Oh my gosh, I missed it. Couldn't even get to 100. That's what you get for blabbering, being like, we're going to do this and this and this and this till we get to 100. Because it's a good reminder, you just have to get one step at a time, right? Hit one good putt at a time. I started, my mind wandering to, talking about other things or what we were going to do after we hit 100. And then, boom, you stop paying attention. Quick bad stroke. End of the streak. Streak ends at 98 in a row, guys. That's some good work. 98 in a row. Still lots to be happy with that performance. Not going to get it done tonight on a fresh streak. But let's hit a few more. Squirrel Sniper says, smash the like button for 100. I know. I wish I could have held up my end of the bargain. Right? Just got, like I said, distracted. It's going to happen, right? It's, you got to have this scar tissue. right? I can remember in a qualifier, I was playing great. I think the number to qualify was like even or 1 over, and I'm 2 under par with 3 holes left, and I'm hitting it great. Obviously, I'm playing well, and then boom, triple bogey on 16. Just didn't even hit a bad tee shot, and was just kind of frazzled, right? I was like, oh man, I didn't think that tee shot was going to end up where it did. Now I'm uncomfortable. Now I'm thinking about the score. Now I just want to get out of here with a bogey, and then boom, once your mind is out of the locked in place it needs to be to play tournament golf, that's how you find yourself missing a 7-footer for double, tapping in for a triple, and then boom, ejected, right? You're not going to qualify in a lot of tournaments making triples, and still only missed it by 1, right? So I was proud of how I played the day overall, to only miss the cut in a State Am qualifier by a shot, or be an alternate. Right, but that's a scar tissue moment. I can go back to that, and I can say, okay, I still birdied the last hole. I still managed to get it in the barn. I can look back on that experience and say, like, okay, you've been here before. You're going to have adversity. You're going to hit bad shots. You're going to have to, maybe make a good bogey, right? And having that scar tissue as something to lean on, in a different way. But I'll remember this too when my mind starts wandering and you start thinking about, what you're going to do 3 or 4 putts for now. Then fight for par on the last must have been tough. Yeah, it was. I think the number ended up being even, right? Because I missed it by 1, and I still birdied. 18 by bogey. Yeah, triple and then bogey. It's a good reminder, though, right? That's what tournament golf is like. No one's coming to save you. You got to get the ball in the hole 18 times. I've seen, really, really talented plus handicap golfers make, 9s and 10s. A friend of mine made an 11 in a tournament, right? Like, you end up in weird spots. You hit crazy shots that you never hit, when you're not under pressure. The mind starts racing, and then, the shots add up. It can really, be a test. And that's why I love it so much, right? It's just something very different than a casual round of golf. Richie says, do you attribute the triple to a bad decision or a bad swing that didn't reflect the execution of the decision you wanted to make? Good question, Richie. So it actually, what started it was I was trying to lay up, right? I wasn't even making an aggressive play. I was playing a dogleg right hole, and I was trying to lay it up just to the end of the dogleg, right? And there was a bunker. There was 250 yards to get in. And so I said, okay, I hit 5 wood like 230, maybe 240 if I hit it good, right? That should definitely stay short of that. So I hit that club, and I just hit the best 5 wood maybe of my life, right? It came out, like that very like fractionally high toe part of the face where it comes out with no spin and it just goes a mile. And I felt it off the face. I was like, huh, that felt like a really hot one. I'm not sure I really needed that right there. And I get up there, it's in the bunker, right? I have a bad lie in the bunker, kind of chunk a 9-iron out, in the fairway. And then, so my mind's kind of racing, like, all right, I really got to get this up and down for par. And just got super aggressive, hit it in the front bunker, didn't get the bunker shot on the green, hit a bad chip from there, and then 2-putted for a triple, right? So no hazards, no penalty strokes. I just actually hit a good tee shot, just into a bad spot. And I think the issue was more me not being prepared for that moment, right? Mentally, I was like, oh man, I made a good swing. I hit a good shot. I shouldn't be here. I should be in the fairway, right? Instead of being like, well, that's crazy. Crazy things happen sometimes. And I can now hit a good shot here, and I can, have a chance to make a par or at worst a bogey, right? And go about my day and continue trying to, play good golf. But I wasn't mentally ready for that moment after having played so well, right? And that's, again, why I have so much respect for guys who have to go play 18 holes 4 days in a row and, just grind out every single shot on every hole. Because it's mentally a test, right? It's way more of a mental test than a physical one. You know, you can go hit 100, 200, 300 golf balls on the driving range. You'd be tired, right? But, you know, it's physically exhausting. But if you play, you know, that much competitive golf in a row, it is mentally exhausting. Which is why I think, you know, especially for me, trying to find ways to practice, you know, adding pressure or simulating, you know, what a round will be like is when my practice is most effective. Ting, too good of a tee shot, yeah. So yeah, that's my story of the triple on 16. You know, but just like that tough moment, I have other good moments or great swings that I've made. You know, I was the medalist in club championship qualifying a couple of years ago, and I played my old home course on the front nine. There was a par 5, then a short par 4, then another par 5. And I make eagle on the first par 5. I'm thinking like, wow, this, you know, I'm playing great. I was like 3 under through 5 holes. Driver's going great. I'm just going to hit driver on this short par 4, where it's probably not a good idea to hit driver. Blast it in the woods, make double. So now I'm like, great, you know, easy hole. I just wasted that eagle I made. Come back and then made 2 more good swings, knock it on the next par 5 and 2, and drained a 20-footer. So I played them eagle, double bogey, eagle, a par 5, a par 4, and a par 5. And I think back to some of those swings and the mental clarity that I had, you know, to hit those great shots under pressure, or some of the shots I hit under pressure in the club championship when I, you know, was in the final match, came in second and lost on 18 in match play to a really, really good player, the guy who'd won the year before. And, you know, I started terribly in that round, right? I bogeyed the first 3 holes. I was 3 down through 3. I had to birdie number 4, which is a par 3, just to stay 3 down. He also birdied. So there I am on 5T being like, well, still 3 down. I just made birdie. Like, I can either, you know, kind of mail it in and just accept defeat on, like, the 14th hole, or I can really try to, you know, play some great golf, hit some good shots, trust the game that I built, and see if we can dig out of this hole. And I did that. I made it to 18, birdied 16, and a great par on 17 to, you know, get to that 18th hole. So, you know, just like we have the scar tissue, you also have the successes, and it's important to, you know, remember both of them and rely on them in different moments when you need them. Right? And I would definitely tell you, like, use the scar tissue, the bad experience to learn from and lean on and say, okay, you know, that's already happened, right? Whatever you think the worst thing that could happen on the golf course is, like, well, you've had that day and you're still fine. You're still here. It's not that big of a deal, right? Just like if you know, you're playing your career round. Say you need a par to break 80 for the first time, right? Everyone's version of this is different. Well, you can lean on and just go back to like, hey, what's a great shot that I hit today or my last round, right? You know, what would it feel like to hit a great tee shot here, right? That's what I try to ask myself when I'm out there playing. Like, what would it feel like if I, you know, just really, you know, I started right at my target, it faded 5 yards like I want to. You know, I make a nice balanced swing, and I kind of hold my finish, right? I see the ball fly right where I, you know, intended to. And that can be a really good way of just priming yourself to get into that space to hit a good shot, right? Because we all know your body is capable of hitting great golf shots. Even if you're a 20 handicapper, you've hit really good golf shots before. I promise you have, right? So, you know, there is an element to muscle memory and training your ability, but you know, it's more how often can you mentally get to that space to allow your body and your brain to take over to hit the shots. So that's my long speech about that. Hey, Jackson Sports 22 is here. What's up, Jackson? I'm hitting some putts. We made 98 in a row. Not quite our personal best of 223, but we're going to keep trying to chase down that number. I remember saying when we first set a long record, we made 208 in a row. And I distinctly remember thinking, there's no shot we're going to make that many again. Just, that's like a special day. Don't think we can do it. And I'll tell you too, it becomes a physical test, right? Just bending over, putting for so long. And then we, like a week or two later, made 223. So it's good to, believe in yourself that you can continue pushing the limits of what you're capable of, right? That's what I'm trying to do with my golf and my channel is, how can I get to the lowest handicap I've ever had? How can I play the best golf of my life, right? I'm trying to do these things. What is your highest donation? I think $20 somebody gave once, which was super nice. Oh no, I'm mistaken. On a live stream, it might be 20, but somebody gave a $50 donation, which was amazing on a video, a super chat. That was really, really cool. Richie, has your decision-making changed on certain shots when you begin to play tournaments, or is every decision the same decision because that's what the best golf shot should be and doing the right thing? Good question, Richie. I think the answer is it depends. If you're playing a one-day stroke play tournament where, like a Monday qualifier, right? That you're going to have to make, and I'm not speaking about myself, right? I'm not that caliber of golfer to even come close to what these guys shoot, but, right, if you shoot 67 in a Monday qualifier, there's like pretty close to a 0% chance you're getting in that field, right? Unless the wind is really blowing or something crazy happens, right? But it's going to be 63, 64, maybe 65, right? But something in the low 60s to get through one of those. So I think those guys probably play pretty aggressively, right? Knowing they need to make a bunch of birdies. Because again, playing it safe and like shooting a comfy 68 doesn't do you any good. You're not getting to where you want to be, right? So that decision making might be different. Whereas in a qualifier, right, you don't need to shoot a super low round most of the time, depending on the Monday, I guess that's different context, right? But for an amateur golfer, you probably don't need to go out and make a bunch of birdies to get through, like a state AM qualifier or even a US AM qualifier, right? Maybe a couple under, a couple over, something in that range. And so in that scenario, right, my qualifier strategy, and this was taught to me, right, by guys who had played professional golf. This is not an idea that manifested itself in my brain, to be clear. You want to hit as many fairways as you can and try to hit 18 greens in regulation, right? You want 18 birdie putts. You want to have 18 two-putt pars in most, of those kinds of qualifiers, right? And so that decision-making, I think, does change, right? You can imagine like par 5 strategy. Say we're hitting driver is going to make it easily reachable in 2, but it brings in the chance of hitting into, a hazard or out of bounds, right? Well, then you might hit a 2-iron or a hybrid off that tee to take that out of bounds out of play. Maybe you're not then going for the green. You're then hitting an 8-iron and a wedge, because that's the best strategy to meet your goal of having 18 birdie putts, hitting all the greens, right? So the answer is it depends. I got 49 when I... Oh, thanks, Jackson. I appreciate that. But, lots of good things you can spend your money on. Garrett says, just signed up for club championships. That's awesome. That's very fun. Good to have some competitive golf on the horizon. I signed up for another qualifier here at the state level coming up next month. So, I'm going to be trying to get my game ready for that. Hopefully play more golf. I've been doing lots of practice, which is great. My swing feels awesome. On the range, I've been hitting it great. Just need more reps on the golf course, right? Especially dealing with things like rough and uneven lies. It's things that are harder to replicate in practice. Yeah, good luck to you too, Garrett. I appreciate it. Golf is as much a game of strategy as it is skill. I totally agree with you, Austin. I think especially the better golfer you become, the more you realize that, right? Like, I played with guys who were a lot better than me, right? +3, +4 handicaps. And I watched them hit the ball, and I'm like, yeah, they hit it a little better than me maybe, or, they hit their wedges closer sometimes. But it's more like they don't chase tucked pins and make silly bogeys. And strategically, right, they never hit it out of bounds or in hazards for the most part. That's really the difference, I think, and that's what I've spent a lot of time working on. I don't know if I talked about this recently, but I just invested in the Decade program again. It's one that I had tried before and kind of didn't give it a fair shake. So I'm going to be implementing some of the Decade stuff and learning that strategy in my own game and trying to apply some of that. you know, in an effort to continue playing better golf. Because I know I hit it good enough. Like I can be a +2, +3 handicap, you know, with enough reps on the course combined with some improved strategy. I certainly have enough speed. Hey, Jackson, thanks for being here. Facts, that was very insightful. Strategy changes because there's a goal to meet. Love that. Thanks, Richie. If you guys are enjoying hanging out like Richie, you want to hit that subscribe button for me. It really does help us out. If I can have my best days, I can win it. I believe in you, Garrett. What is the best brand of golf balls? I don't know about the best, but I've had really good luck, you know, consistency-wise over the years with Titleist golf balls. I recently switched this season to the TP5X from TaylorMade, and I've liked that golf ball a lot. Especially off the driver, it seems to spin less. I like the Strixon golf ball in the wind. It doesn't spin hardly at all. But it's been a number of years. You know, it was more like probably 7, 8, 9 years ago when I was playing the Strixon balls a lot. Nice. Do you have any tips for hitting driver? I just started a couple of months ago, and I'm just started getting into drivers. Yeah, so my best driver advice, right, is practice as much as you can hitting the center of the club face and learning how to control where the ball's going, right? How do you know? So building the skill of controlling the club face and the path, so that you can reliably, you know, hit the center of the club face and hit the ball pretty straight, right? You need to know where it's going, and that still means your dispersion might be 60 yards wide, right? 50, 60 yards from, you know, left to right, whether you're playing exclusively draws or fades or both, right? So as from a skill development perspective, I would tell you, you know, slow the swing down. Even with driver, you can swing it, you know, halfway back and just practice. How do I get the flat part, the face, on the ball squarely so that that ball can fly, you know, up in the air and pretty straight towards my target? It's okay if it, you know, turns a little from right to left or fades from left to right, but that's the skill I would have you develop, right? You can just make little chippy swings. How do you like the lab? Did you just get it? I did just get it, Ian. It's only been in my bag for a few weeks. Really, really big fan so far. Great competition at my club. It sounds like it, Garrett, and, you know, it sounds like you regularly post some rounds in the low 70s, so... Hey, Kent Knife is here. What's up, Kent? Trying to clean up some stuff with my posture here, guys. Especially, you know, just trying to feel like everything stays nice and tall here, not quite so, you know, rounded this way. I'll tell you too, the left-hand low switch for me has been huge. Just so much more consistent strike on the putter. Nice. Was there any point in lowering your handicap you started to do something that clicked you attribute anything to? Good question, Richie. I think really working on my irons. You know, you have to be able to hit driver to a certain point, you know, where you can keep it in play and expect, you know, a pretty reasonable dispersion, right, when you're hitting driver. And to be able to hit driver solidly. And that's going to fluctuate, right? You're going to hit more fairways some days versus others. But I've often, you know, thought that the more I practice my irons and wedges, the better my scores are. You know, it's a lot about just hitting greens. And for me too, I'll share my experience. You know, is probably unique because my ball striking always outpaced my putting. Like I would hit 14 greens and have 39 putts, 40 putts. I was three putting regularly from 15 feet, 20 feet. Like I didn't understand putting strategy, right? I was trying to hole all those putts, um, and not understanding like your goal is just a two putt, right, from all those outside of 10 feet basically. So the more I learned about strategy and as a concept, right, mental game's obviously important, but just understanding like how do you actually shoot a good score? What does it look like? It's very boring, right? It's not a lot of like crazy shots. It's a lot of easy pars, tap in pars. Play the par fives well, and just try to be consistent over 18 holes. Right, 18 holes is a lot of golf. That's the thing that I still struggle with. Right, I'll play great front nine, and then get to like 14, 15. I start kind of running out of steam, whether that's physically or mentally. So again, just all these areas to identify. Ian says, I recently watched a Ben Hatton golf video. Ben's awesome. I'd love to see Ben hit balls in person. He's like a smooth 190 ball speed kind of guy, from what I understand. I'm thinking of making the switch. Would you recommend it? I would recommend it, Ian. I would. If it's in your budget, it is a really, really cool piece of technology. You got to expect that your friends are going to make fun of you, right? Especially, like a DF3, something crazy looking like this. My buddies like to call it a soup ladle because it is a strange shape. But I think it puts a tremendously good roll on the ball. I don't mind the shape of it at all. The performance across the face is excellent. I did a whole bunch of putting combine drills earlier today at the golf course, and the lab held up really well. But that's all we're going to have time for today, guys. Tonight, I should say. Thank you so much for being here. One more chance to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you all for your continued support on the channel. Couldn't do it without you guys. See you next time.